There was a city that officially did not exist. A place you could not point to on a map, could not write a letter to, could not admit you had ever visited. And yet, tens of thousands of people lived there. They raised families, went to work, and built the most dangerous weapons humanity has ever created. All of it hidden behind fences designed not just to keep outsiders out, but to erase the city itself from reality. If you had asked the Soviet government where this place was, they would have told you it wasn't anywhere at all. Tonight, you and I are going to step into that absence, into the silence between official records, into a city known as Arzamas 16, later called Sarov.
450 kilometers southwest of Moscow. According to the Military Today spokesman, the Soviet Union and the U.S.
And the deeper we go, the harder it becomes to tell whether this city was built to protect the world or to imprison the people inside it.
The next story.
Sarov sits deep within Russia, surrounded by forests so dense that sound itself seems to vanish into the trees. Here, winter stretches endlessly, and even the air feels controlled, measured, watched. This was not accidental. In the late 1940s, as the Cold War hardened into something permanent and terrifying, the Soviet Union needed a place where its most brilliant physicists could work in complete isolation, distant from foreign eyes. Planners selected a former religious settlement, once home to monasteries and monks, and stripped it of its past. Prayer was replaced with plutonium. The city was renamed Arzamas 16, a number borrowed from a nearby region, designed to disguise its true location. And from that moment forward, it ceased to officially exist. Because in Soviet logic, if a city had no name, no address, and no coordinates, then it could not be targeted, infiltrated, or even acknowledged. Inside the perimeter, however, life was strangely normal. Schools, theaters, apartments, and parks, carefully arranged according to socialist urban planning principles. All of it built by architects and engineers who understood one thing clearly. This city would never be photographed, never advertised, and never explained. And that contradiction between comfort and confinement would define everything that followed. The real turning point came in 1949, when the Soviet Union detonated its first atomic bomb, shattering the American monopoly on nuclear weapons and sending shockwaves through global politics. Because what the world did not yet realize was that the weapon had been designed almost entirely within the walls of Arzamas 16. Scientists like Yuli Karaton, the program's chief physicist, worked under conditions unlike anywhere else in the Soviet Union, a strange mixture of extraordinary privilege and absolute surveillance. They received better food, better housing, better resources than most Soviet citizens, while simultaneously living under constant monitoring, restricted travel, and the unspoken understanding that leaving the city permanently was not guaranteed. Families were brought in under secrecy agreements. Children grew up believing their hometown was just another industrial settlement. Letters sent outward were carefully censored, their addresses listing only the false designation, Arzamas 16, a place that led nowhere. And here is where the accounts begin to diverge. Because while some former residents later described the city as a scientific utopia, others remembered something very different. As decades passed, arzamas 16 expanded, not just physically, but psychologically. It became a closed ecosystem where the outside world grew abstract, distant, almost fictional. Inside, the pressure to succeed never relaxed, because failure here was not just personal, it was existential. The city became the heart of the Soviet nuclear program, contributing not only to atomic bombs, but to hydrogen weapons, delivery systems, and theoretical models capable of ending civilization many times over. All while residents attended concerts, celebrated holidays, and walked through tree-lined streets that felt almost peaceful. But peace in this place was fragile. Security intensified after espionage scares. Movement became even more restricted, and some scientists were quietly removed, reassigned, or erased from internal records. Rumors spread that mistakes were punished not with dismissal, but with disappearance. Documentation remains incomplete. Testimonies often conflict, leaving historians to assemble fragments rather than conclusions. And perhaps the most unsettling part is that the city's planners anticipated this tension. Sarov was designed not only as a workspace, but as a containment structure, a place where everything you needed existed inside, and everything you might miss outside slowly faded from memory. So now, you might want to ask yourself something. How long could you live in a place you were never meant to leave? After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, something unexpected happened. While many closed cities were opened, renamed, or abandoned, arzamas 16 remained sealed. Rebranded officially as Sarov, but still restricted, still guarded, still classified. As if history itself had decided that some secrets were too dangerous to release. Journalists who attempted to enter were denied. Maps were updated, but incomplete. And even today, access requires special permission, making Sarov one of the few surviving examples of a Cold War closed city that never truly transitioned into the modern world. Declassified documents later revealed something more unsettling. The city had been deliberately designed to be psychologically self-sustaining. Cultural institutions were placed strategically to reduce dissent. Green spaces were arranged to soften confinement. Housing was allocated not just by rank, but by loyalty. A subtle hierarchy, reinforced not by laws, but by geography itself. This was not just a city, it was an experiment in controlled human existence, where architecture, secrecy, and ideology merged into a single system. And once you see that, it becomes impossible to unsee. Some former residents argue that Sarov was proof that people can thrive under restriction if they are given purpose, security, and community. They point to high morale, strong education, and a sense of shared mission, one that transcended fear. Others disagree. They suggest the city functioned less like a sanctuary and more like a gilded cage, a place where isolation blurred moral responsibility, where it became easier for scientists to detach from the consequences of their work, because the bombs they designed existed only as equations, never as cities reduced to ash. Psychologists studying closed communities have observed something consistent. Prolonged isolation, combined with privilege, can produce a form of emotional narrowing. The outside world becomes abstract, empathy becomes selective, and loyalty to the system feels safer than questioning it. Which raises an uncomfortable possibility that arzamas 16 did not merely hide nuclear weapons from the world, but also shielded its creators from confronting what those weapons meant. And if that is true, then the city was not just a place. It was a psychological weapon in its own right. Today, Sarov still exists. Its residents live ordinary lives inside a city born from extraordinary secrecy, while the forests around it continue to absorb sound, light, and history. The urban planners who designed Sarov are largely forgotten. Their blueprints remain classified. Their intentions survive only in fragments, leaving us to wonder whether they believed they were building a sanctuary, a fortress, or a necessary evil. And here is the question I want to leave you with, because it has no easy answer. If a city can be erased from maps, if tens of thousands of lives can unfold in secrecy, if world-changing decisions can be made behind fences no one is allowed to cross, then how many other places like this still exist, shaping our future quietly, invisibly, without our consent? Some cities disappear. Others are designed never to be found. And Sarov is still there, waiting, just out of sight. If stories like this matter to you, stories where power hides in architecture and secrecy leaves fingerprints on human lives, then this is where you belong. Subscribe, because the next story is already being built.